He could shatter bricks with a single kick. He made the world gasp with splits that defied human anatomy. For a decade, Jean-Claude Van Damme owned Hollywood's action throne. But behind those piercing eyes, behind that trademark smile that sold millions of movie tickets, there was always a war being waged. A war against his own mind. A war against addiction. A war against loneliness that no amount of fame could ever fill. Now at 64, the muscles from Brussels faces his hardest chapter yet. In October 2024, he held his mother's hand as she took her final breath. Months later, he went under the knife for major spinal surgery after 15 years of chronic pain. And through it all, he still battles the same invisible enemy that's haunted him since childhood: rapid cycling bipolar disorder. This is the untold story of what really happened to Jean-Claude Van Damme. Before the roundhouse kicks and the Hollywood premieres, there was just a skinny kid in Belgium who couldn't catch a break. Jean-Claude Camille Francois van Varenberg was born on October 18, 1960, in a quiet suburb near Brussels. His father Eugene worked as an accountant. His mother Eliana was a florist who filled their modest home with color. On paper, it looked like an ordinary childhood, but the mirror told a different story. Young Jean-Claude was frail. He wore thick glasses. The other kids called him names. In a 2011 interview, he recalled standing in front of a mirror at age 11, staring at his reflection and feeling the crushing weight of humiliation. Right then, he made himself a promise. He would rewrite his own story. His father noticed the storm building inside his son. So at age 10, he enrolled Jean-Claude at the Centre National de Karate under Master Claude Getz. For 4 brutal years, the boy drilled until discipline became his second skin. By 18, he earned his black belt in Shotokan Karate and joined Belgium's national karate team. But strength alone wasn't enough to escape the ridicule. So he did something that shocked everyone. He chose ballet. For 5 relentless years, he trained at the bar, developing the balance and grace that would later become his signature. He once said that if you can survive a ballet workout, you can survive anything. Then came bodybuilding. By 1978, at just 18 years old, he won the Mr. Belgium title. The transformation was complete. The frail boy with glasses was gone. In his place stood a figure carved from steel. But the most remarkable moment of his childhood happened when he was just 12. One restless night, he walked alone into a church near his home and whispered 3 wishes to God: save the world, protect nature, and become a movie star. To most people, those would sound like the naive dreams of a lonely boy. To Jean-Claude, they were lifelines. In 1982, with only $3,000 in his pocket and a dream bigger than his accent, Jean-Claude Van Damme landed in America. Hollywood did not roll out any red carpets. The city didn't care if he lived or died. He slept in the back seat of a beat-up car, the windows fogged with his own breath, his stomach twisting so violently with hunger that sleep felt impossible. He later admitted that he sometimes stole food just to survive. An apple here, a sandwich there. Not out of defiance, but out of pure desperation. The auditions were brutal. By some accounts, he faced over 100 rejections. Casting directors smiled politely, shook their heads, or worse, laughed at his broken English. Every closed door felt like a knife. And the silence of a phone that never rang wasn't just quiet. It was a verdict. To survive, he took whatever work he could find. He delivered pizzas. He laid parquet floors. He drove limousines. He even worked as a bouncer at a bar owned by Chuck Norris. Think about that irony for a moment. He spent his nights protecting strangers while dreaming of fighting villains on the silver screen. In 1984, he flickered briefly across the screen in a movie called Breakin' as a background dancer. That same year, he joined Chuck Norris's stunt team for Missing in Action. The pay was nothing, but it proved he could bleed for the camera. His first real role with a face and a name came in 1986, when he played the Russian villain Ivan in No Retreat, No Surrender. It was a small film, cheaply made, but it was sunlight after years of rain. He was finally on screen. Every morning during those dark years, Even with an empty stomach, he forced himself to stretch, to train, to do his splits until his legs screamed in protest. He once said that every single day he told himself, "Thank you in advance for my success." It was madness to believe, but belief was all he had. In 1988, everything changed. Bloodsport hit the screen like a thunderbolt. Made for just $1.5 million, the film grossed over $50 million worldwide. Jean-Claude played Frank Dukes, an American martial artist competing in a secret underground tournament. But really, he was fighting for every cold night, every slammed door, every insult that told him he was invisible. When Bloodsport came out, he cried. Because the little boy in Belgium who knelt in that church and whispered impossible wishes had finally been seen. The success didn't glide in gently. It crashed down like a tidal wave. Kickboxer came next, turning a modest budget into a $50 million triumph. That film gave the world one of the most iconic scenes in action cinema. The drunken dance that explodes into a devastating split kick. More hits followed in rapid succession. Lionheart, Death Warrant, Double Impact, where he played identical twins locked in a dazzling storm of fists and fury. Then came Universal Soldier, where he faced off against Dolph Lundgren in a brutal showdown that grossed over $100 million worldwide. The peak arrived with Time Cop in 1994. Critics who had dismissed him as just another muscle-bound fighter were suddenly watching a man who could not only break bones, but also break hearts. The film crushed $100 million at the box office and proved that Jean-Claude Van Damme had real range. Even video games recognized his power. The character Johnny Cage in the original Mortal Kombat was directly inspired by him, right down to the initials and the cocky swagger. At his peak, studios were offering him $12 million per picture. But Van Damme wanted $20 million, the same as Jim Carrey was getting at the time. He demanded more. The studio hung up on him. That decision would haunt him for years. But during those glory years, from roughly 1988 to 1996, Van Damme was more than just a star. He was a phenomenon. The muscles from Brussels had conquered the world. Behind the million-dollar smile, behind the thunderous applause, Jean-Claude Van Damme was falling apart. The same relentless drive that lifted him from poverty was now consuming him. He filmed back to back to back, flying from set to set, city after city blurring into one endless loop. He barely saw his family. Empty chairs at the dinner table spoke louder than any standing ovation. His marriages crumbled one after another. First, Maria Rodriguez, his childhood sweetheart from Belgium, who later said that loving him was like standing in the middle of a storm she couldn't control. Then Cynthia Derderian, who called their brief union pure hell because he only loved himself and his career. Then Gladys Portuguese, a former bodybuilder who gave him 2 children, Christopher in 1987 and Bianca in 1990. That marriage collapsed in 1992 amid rumors of infidelity. In 1994, he married Darcy LaPierre, a former Miss Hawaii. A year later, she gave birth to their son, Nicholas. But even during the pregnancy, tabloids exploded with stories of an affair between Van Damme and pop star Kylie Minogue during the filming of Street Fighter. For 2 decades, he denied it. Then in 2012, he finally admitted the truth. The affair was real, and Darcy, who only learned about it through the media, felt utterly betrayed. When the custody battle ended and Nicholas was taken from him, Van Damme discovered a silence more merciless than any critic's review. The silence of a home where a child's laughter had been replaced by absence. And into that emptiness crept the shadows. By the mid-90s, whispers of substance abuse followed him everywhere. Some reports claimed he was consuming up to 10 grams of cocaine per day, an amount that could have killed most people. His body, once sculpted like marble, began to carry the slow rust of despair. On the set of Street Fighter in 1994, chaos brewed behind the cameras. Van Damme reportedly vanished for days at a time, pulled into the undertow of his addiction. The film made money, but for those who watched him stagger, it was clear the man Hollywood had called unstoppable was burning out, frame by frame. Then came the courts. A stunt accident left a performer named Jackson Pinckney blind in one eye. Van Damme was ordered to pay nearly $500,000. In 1997, He was publicly humiliated when a biker punched him unconscious in a crowded New York bar. The tabloids feasted on the footage. By the late 90s, Hollywood began to recoil. The phone stopped ringing. The offers dried up. The tidal wave of stardom receded, leaving him stranded in silence. And in that silence, the abyss opened. In a hotel room, alone and broken, Van Damme later admitted that he thought about ending it all. The answer to so much of the chaos finally came in 1998. After years of emotional turbulence, substance abuse, and spiraling behavior, doctors diagnosed Jean-Claude Van Damme with rapid cycling bipolar disorder. This isn't ordinary mood swings. This is one of the most aggressive forms of the condition. It means swinging from euphoric, untouchable highs to devastating, paralyzing lows, sometimes within the span of hours. The diagnosis was both devastating and liberating. For the first time, he understood the war that had been raging inside him since childhood. He later described those early years, saying that when he was young, the sky could be blue on his way to school, but to him, it felt black. He was so sad and didn't know why. In 2011, he publicly discussed his condition for the first time on a British reality show. He admitted that he was an extreme bipolar, that he took medication for it, and that sometimes people would like him, and sometimes people would hate him. He accepted that he wasn't perfect. Today, he manages the condition with sodium valproate, a powerful mood stabilizer. But medication alone isn't the answer. Van Damme returned to the very thing that saved him in his youth: training. He works out every single day. Stretching, martial arts, weight training. He says that without discipline, he would not have survived. In 1999, arrested for driving under the influence, his mugshot replaced the glossy posters of his prime. But rock bottom became the turning point. He quit cocaine cold turkey, changed his diet, altered the way he talked, even the way he approached projects. He rebuilt himself piece by fragile piece. What makes his story remarkable isn't just the comeback, it's the honesty. By speaking openly about bipolar disorder, by admitting he wasn't invincible, Van Damme broke a different kind of wall. Not in a dojo, not on a movie set, but in the stigma surrounding mental health. For fans who once saw him as untouchable, his confession became a lifeline. It told them that strength isn't the absence of weakness, it's the courage to face it head-on. The past few years have brought new storms. In October 2024, just days before his 64th birthday, Jean-Claude Van Damme said goodbye to his mother. Eliana van Varenberg passed away at a nursing home in Knokke-le-Zout, Belgium. According to reports, he was at her side, holding her hand until she took her final breath. Anyone who followed his career knows how close they were. He regularly shared photos with her on social media. He credited her with supporting him through his darkest hours. Losing her hit hard. Then came the physical toll. In August 2025, Van Damme checked into a private clinic near Montpellier, France, for major spinal surgery. He spent 8 days in the hospital recovering from the operation. According to doctors, decades of high kicks, stunts, and bone-crunching fight scenes had finally caught up with him. For 15 years, he lived with chronic back pain. Sleeping on his back was impossible. He spent nights curled on his side with a pillow between his legs, just trying to get through until morning. After the surgery, he posted a video calling the procedure wonderful. For the first time in years, the pain was gone. He acknowledged what everyone suspected. This was the price of reaching the top. The price of all those action scenes that made him famous. His personal life remains complicated. He's technically still married to Gladys Portugues, but they've been separated for years. She filed for divorce twice, in 1992 and again in 2015, but both times they reconciled. Whether that marriage will ever officially end remains unclear. Meanwhile, he's been in a relationship with Ukrainian model Elena Kaverina since around 2009. They met at a nightclub in Thailand, and she's accompanied him around the world ever since, appearing with him at premieres, on movie sets, even visiting his parents in Belgium. His children have carved out their own paths. Christopher, now 37, works as an actor and has appeared alongside his father in several films. Bianca, 34, also acts and has embraced fitness like her parents. Nicholas, his youngest son from Darcy LaPierre, has struggled more. In 2017, he made headlines after an arrest involving a dispute with his roommate. Financially, Van Damme is comfortable. Estimates put his net worth between $30 and $40 million. He owns properties in Los Angeles, Brussels, and Hong Kong. The man who once slept in the back of a car now walks through Mediterranean villas. But he's not done working. In January 2025, he released The Gardener, an action comedy on Amazon Prime Video. He continues to appear in films, do voice work for video games like Mortal Kombat 1, and make viral commercial appearances. The Volvo truck split commercial from 2013 still circulates online, reminding the world that even at 60+, he can do things most 20-year-olds can't. Jean-Claude Van Damme isn't just an action star, he's a survivor. He survived the cruelty of childhood bullies. He survived the hunger of those early years in Hollywood. He survived addiction, scandal, broken marriages, and the silence of a son who was taken from him. He survived the storm inside his own mind. At 64, he carries scars that no spotlight can hide. But he also carries something else. Proof that redemption is real. His greatest battles were never fought on screen. They were fought in silence, within himself. And in surviving them, he discovered a victory greater than any box office record. If his films lit a fire in your youth, if his resilience still inspires you today, let me know in the comments. Share your memory. Share your respect. And if you want more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. Because Jean-Claude Van Damme isn't just a relic of Hollywood's golden past. He's living proof that no matter how hard you fall, you can always find a way to rise again.